I've got an introduction with CL. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about him if y'all don't know anything about Mr. Bryant. Number one, he's my hero. All these guys sitting up here are my heroes. When I first heard Mr. Bryant, I believe it was either 2009 or 2010, I took my Mustang and made a 14-hour trip to D.C. for the Tea Party. A lot of the Mississippi folks I see here were there. I remember hearing this man the first time he spoke. I said, that man's got it. That man has got everything that I have argued with the TV with, this man vocalized. And when people...
Hello, my friends. So happy to be here with you. Welcome. Here in this great state of Mississippi. Friends, it is time now for us to band together in order to do something different. What do I mean by that? I mean that the sun is setting on so many things in this country. But we dare not believe that the day is coming where the sun will set on our independent and separate liberties. It is past high noon here in this state of Mississippi. The sun is going down. And there are some who would like you to believe that the sun is going down on America. No. But we stand here today and we send this message to everyone, everywhere, that we are Americans and we will not run from this fight. We will stand and we will defend the Republic with every ounce of our American courage, every ounce of our American fortitude.
Amen.
My friends, you here in Mississippi have been very newsworthy these last few weeks. You've been very much watched around our nation. Unfortunately, it has not been for the right thing. Your election has been tainted.
Yes.
Your election has been bought. Your election should then be overturned, and you are the people to do that. Thad Cochran has been in office for over 36 years.
Too long.
Far too long.
Amen.
And I've come to tell you this, that there is a message that you need to send. And let me share a way to allow you to share it with people of color. You need to share it in this way, because it was people of color, Democrats, and people of color who he reached out to in order to taint this election. He lied to them. He lied on you.
Yes.
He told falsehoods about people who are the salt of the earth.
Amen.
Every one of us, regardless of if your ancestors came to these shores on the Mayflower, or whether they came here in the hulls of slave ships like mine. What we prove here today on the steps of the state capitol of Mississippi is that it does not matter how your ancestors came to these shores, but in the DNA of every true American is a thirst for liberty and freedom, and friends, that must never go away. We're all the children of runaway slaves. some fleeing the tyranny of English kings, some fleeing the tyranny of Latin despots, some fleeing the tyranny of the plantation. All of us out here today are the sons of runaway slaves. But we have come to share this message. If we could speak to the Benjamin Franklins, the Jeffersons, the Hancocks, the John Adams in times past, if we could reach back through the annals of history and speak to those founding fathers, we would be able to say to them today from the state of Mississippi that we have held the republic and we will hold the republic with whatever is necessary for us to hold it. We will hold it. My friends, in 1988, there was a movie made in this state called Mississippi Burning. Today, obviously, there are ghosts that are trying to frighten some people into not voting. They tried to smear you with racist commentary. They tried to smear you with the ghost of the past. Now, I come to bring this message to one and all, that I believe that the healing for our entire nation will come from the South. It will come from Mississippi. It will come from Louisiana. It will come from Alabama. It will come from Georgia. And the reason I believe it will come from the South is because we as Southerners, regardless of if we're black or if we're white, we have a common relationship with one another. Southerners, unlike any other group of people in this country, we have this certain nuance between us. Doesn't matter if you're black or if you're white. If I say to any of you here today, hey y'all, after all this is over, let's go get us some cornbread and black-eyed peas with a little fat back, everybody here will know what I'm talking about. You can't go to Chicago and say those things. You can't go to New York and say those things. If I say to everybody here, we're going to have a great time with grits and bacon, everybody here knows what we're talking about. Because we as Southerners, we eat the same foods. We believe God basically the same. We love the outdoors.
Amen.
We love to hunt. We love to fish. We're Southerners. But unfortunately, there are places across this country who look at us and think somehow that we are less than. They look at us because of the way we may speak in our slow, deliberate way,
That's right. That's right.
because of our laid-back attitude. There's no sense in being in a hurry. Let's take our time. Because we are Southerners, they think that what we're doing here in response to Thad Cochran stealing this election is something we're doing because of race. No, no, no. We are doing this because it was wrong, and we have the courage to stand and say that it was wrong as Southerners. It was wrong. It was wrong. Let's examine. Let's examine why it was wrong. Particularly, we're talking about how they used black folks. Because they were used. Black folks have been angry for over 60 years because of lack of jobs. And in Mississippi, which is one of the poorest states in this union, when we look at how Thad Cochran has been in office for over 36 years, I need to send this message to black people. You were angry when he was elected, and you're still angry now. Why in the world would you continue to support somebody who has not answered the anger? Why would you continue to do that? That's not intelligent. That doesn't make sense. It's at least time to try something different. Let me say this, folks. The only common denominator that you have between the time that Thad Cochran was elected in 1978 and today is that nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. So, my fellow conservatives, my fellow Southerners, Mississippians, I'm just next door in Louisiana. So we have a lot in common as far as our history is concerned. But friends, you must carry this message to the church houses. You must carry this message past the state houses. And this must be your battle cry from this point on. You must tell every elected official that if they will not stand with us to defend the Constitution of the United States, then they need to pack their bags and get out of our state houses, get out of our national houses, get out of D.C. That is the message that you must carry with you. For those of you who are in churches where your pastor will not stand up and speak out against the Caesars of this world, if your pastor will not stand out and speak against the immoralities that are going on because of progressive liberal policies, if your pastor does not speak out against the vote that has been tainted, then I encourage you to find yourself another pastor, because this country was founded with pastors and leaders who had the courage to inspire a nation. We are here today in perilous times in this country. And because a vote like this can be tainted, because a vote can be stolen under the nose of the people, using scare tactics, it tells us something. It tells us that we have been asleep. We've been asleep while the enemy has been sowing seeds of discord all up and down our political landscape. I love the idea of Ronald Reagan, and I love the ideas that he had of American exceptionalism. And friends, the reason we must band together and run the jackals and the weasels out of office is because we need somebody once again who will restore American swagger in our stride and American pride in our nation across the world. Americans must hold their heads up high once again in this world. We are the light of the world. We are the salt of the earth. And there is nothing wrong with us being Americans must hold their heads up wherever we go. Now, friends, you have several other speakers here today, and I simply came to inspire them to reach toward their better selves. I came to inspire you not to give up this fight. I came to encourage you to pass the legacy of our nation on to our children. We haven't done the best job of that. We must pass it on. There was a time that what we taught in school or what we taught at home was taught in our schools, and then it was echoed in our churches. I'll say it again. There was a time that what we taught at home, we could depend on that being taught in our schools. And then we heard it on Sunday in our churches. We can't depend on that anymore. What we teach our children at home, I can assure you it's being undermined at school. And the reason so many pastors never invite me back to preach at their churches is because so many times what we teach them at home, they're not even teaching it in church anymore. Our country, Mississippi, is a place where freedom works. I am a fellow with Freedom Works in Washington, D.C., and our president and CEO, Matt Kibbe, has these words to say. He says, sometimes to defeat the Democrats, we must first defeat the Republicans. Friends, unfortunately, that seems to be the case for us now. That in order to defeat the Democrats, we're going to have to defeat some Republicans. As I leave you today, I will encourage you, don't you ever let them see you run. Don't you ever let them see you quit this fight. And there is a question that all of us must continue to answer from this day forward if the Republic is to survive. And that question is, are there any patriots out there today? Is there anybody out there who will stand up for God and country, stand up for the Constitution, stand up for America? Then patriots, stand up, stand up, stand up. God bless you. God keep you. God bless America.
God bless you.
Nate.
Y'all are going to make me humble yet. It's kind of mean to put me after C.L. Bryant. I'm going to remember that, friend, Don. Welcome, patriots. Every single one of you is a patriot because you recognize the need we have today. Today, we have to be the people that the men and women of the 1760s had to be themselves. Yesterday, we celebrated the 238th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. I call that a timeless document because it spoke and still speaks truth to power. The power lies in the people. Make no mistake about that. And it is now we who are awake in Mississippi who understands we have to exercise that power. Americans do hard things. I want to share this quote with you. It may not seem like it means it has exact meaning for you right now, but through my talk, I think it will. JFK said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and to do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." This is a hard fight, you all. Chris McDaniel knew that it wouldn't be easy, but he had a dream. He knew that he had to do that which was necessary to reestablish the fabric of the American dream. That dream is self-determination, not just for certain people in this country, but for all Americans. I happen to really admire Lloyd Marcus. Any of you know who Lloyd Marcus is? He absolutely will not call himself an African American. He calls himself an American, and so do I. To buy the votes of Black Mississippians is to denigrate their place in the history of dark struggles. That is the blacks' place in the American story. The American story is becoming new to me once again because I just went to see Dinesh D'Souza's movie called America. If you haven't thought about going to see it, or if you haven't seen it, make a concerted effort to do so, because he corrects American history. It corrects it from what we learned in school. And he does the documentation as well. We have failed Black Americans because we failed to educate them. We failed to give them what they need to understand, and that is they have power within themselves, the power to think and to figure out what it means to vote for a candidate who has real values. Unfortunately, Thad Cochran's campaign retreated from that effort. They retreated on giving them the dignity of what their vote means.
That's right, that's right.
In this 50th anniversary year of Freedom Summer, that led to the end of Black vote prevention, we are now standing here and saying we're going to use the vote that we gave you, that we stopped you from having before? What freedom is that? Now, one side wishes to prevent the free exercise thereof, the right by lying and buying off that vote for their own political gain. You all, every one of us has a vote, and it's valuable to each one of us.
That's right.
And it's given to us for what reason? To make responsible decisions about who we want to have representing us, either in this House or the one in Washington. Whether our town councils, whether it's our county supervisors, we have the right and we have the responsibility to make positive decisions of those folks.
Amen.
Chris McDaniel never said or did. He never did anything to try to separate from any person his right to anything. He is dedicated to the education of what those rights mean to all of us. He was and is inclusive. He's inclusive to this thought from Thomas Jefferson. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never can be. And so that message we wish for all Americans, all Mississippians, to be learned in their understanding of freedom and exercising their free rights. voting for the candidate of your choice because he has disclosed to each individual voter what his real beliefs are. Have we heard that from Thad Cochran?
No.
Have we heard that from anyone who speaks for Thad Cochran at all?
No.
Have we heard Mr. Cochran at all?
No. He approves this message. Amen.
Thank you. What McDaniel has tried to do, and he did it, he went out extensively to meet and greet Mississippians. When was the last time that good old-fashioned campaigning technique was exercised by his opponent?
Never.
Was it ever?
No. No.
Let us look at what that and what it means. Mr. McDaniel made himself available to all Mississippians to allow them some opportunity to decide individually, and then ask, do you acknowledge that Mr. McDaniel's values agree with yours? If not, then you have the free exercise of your judgment of the candidate you want in that senatorial representation in Washington.
That's right. That's right. That's what he did.
What this is not about is one person. This is about the freedom of the established message inherent at the Declaration of Independence. All men are created and should be treated as God ordained, not as a man corrupted power or his avarice for dominance over others. It is to wield freedom among all Americans. And Chris said that over and over. This is a movement to reestablish freedom for us. The nation is watching, the world is watching, just as CL said. We are being watched everywhere. I get emails almost every single day telling me what's going on in Mississippi.
Amen.
What are y'all doing? Is this going to come about in a positive way? We embrace that charge to do what God is asking us to do, to stand for freedom.
Amen.
I guess a few words would be in order. Oh, freedom rally, so you can say whatever you want.
Man, I'm proud of you guys. Let me just say this. We, all of us, over the last few days have been ridiculed and we've been mocked. They say conservatives somehow are off the mainstream. But let's remind them, we didn't have to have 42 Democrats to beat Thad Cochran. We did it the right way. We did it away with honor. We spoke to the people directly. We talked about the things that mattered. We talked about liberty and freedom and the Constitution. We talked about balanced budgets and tax reform. And they talked about everything but that.
Amen.
We tried to debate. We tried to discuss it. Nothing. Any issue was more important than the issues.
That's right.
Well, let's make it very clear today, after what we saw the other night, which is clearly the most unethical election in the history of this state,
Amen. Nation.
and might very well be the most illegal election in the history of this state. We will let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the people of this state will do anything to preserve the torch of liberty. We will bear any burden, fight any foe, to make sure that corruption is finally rooted out of the election process in this state. At this point, what we see here is a true movement of liberty-loving, minded people that want to see change. The thing is that despite the threats that may be tender toward one of you or me or for anybody for that matter, we have an obligation at this point to move past a single candidate or a single campaign. We stand together to fight for integrity in the election process. And we'll stand together to make sure that there's integrity in the Republican Party again as well. The issue before us at this time, and you all know this very much, we are a party of principle or we're not a party at all.
Amen.
The unethical campaign that they have run has caused great harm to our party.
Yes.
It has splintered it. Don't let them tell you otherwise. What they did was not an outreach. It was scare tactics. What they did was not growing the base of the party. It was simply borrowing a handful of votes for a temporary time.
That's right.
What they did was not stand on the Republican platform. They abandoned the platform because power was too important to them. Power was too intoxicating to them. They left conservatives because they knew conservatives had left Thad Cochran. But that is no way to win an election.
No, sir.
That is no way to conduct yourselves as honorable gentlemen. This is not about race. It's never been about race. The message of liberty resonates with all people. The message of freedom resonates with all people.
Amen.
And conservatism resonates with all people. And that's what we did. We talked about that message. And what they did instead, they committed race baiting, didn't they?
Amen.
They put advertisements on the radio and flyers that said if I was elected that people would lose the right to vote. They said if I was elected that welfare benefits would be cut off.
Liar.
They said that if I was elected, funding would be cut off to historically black universities.
Lies.
They said that if a Tea Party were able to succeed some degree of success, that we would go back to the good old bad old days, they said.
Lies. I heard that one.
Lies,
All lies.
distortions, anything for power. We're going to expose it. I told you a long time ago when I first announced that I would fight no matter the cost. And so our fight continues, doesn't it? They can save their threats. They can save them.
That's right.
What matters here are the people of this state,
That's right.
the people of this nation, and they need to find the corruption and root it out of the system. We need to advance conservative causes, not by sacrificing our platform, but by upholding the Republican platform.
That's right.
And that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, I'm going to leave you with this. We've been through a lot, haven't we?
Yes,
I consider you my family.
sir. Same here.
And that blood runs thick, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
There's no way we'll abandon this cause. We will not leave our friends in the field of battle. Because when we're done with this, the people of Mississippi will have their justice, they'll have their honor, and the people of this country will finally have some answers. God bless you. I appreciate it very much.
is we have to stop and recognize that we've done a very big thing in this Republican primary. We've showed the world that a decades-old network of corruption that has helped keep power in the hands of a select few at the expense of the many, we've showed them what that looks like. And this state's election laws, I don't believe, will ever be the same again as a result of this. The Lord works in mysterious ways. Maybe He brought us to this so He could bring us through this. When you stood up on June 3rd, those who opposed us realized the only choice they had left for the June 24th election was between cheating or losing. What they still haven't realized, apparently, is that they've already lost. This energy, this passion will not be contained. It will not be contained. It will not be bottled back up. The cat is out of the bag. Right here. So understand the significance of what you've done. It's very important you understand this. What you've done is important. You've told the power brokers in Mississippi and in Washington, D.C. that you no longer accept business as usual, that you will no longer accept a game that is fixed, that is rigged against you, and that you will no longer accept that they can jerk your chain and get you to perform as they wish, whenever they wish. That day is over. I've served my community and I've been active in politics as a conservative Republican for the better part of a decade now. I've given my time, I've given my money to the party for years. I know there's a great deal of anger out there at the Republican Party right now, and many of your statewide elected officials, and rightfully so. When presented with a real grassroots movement and an opportunity to put discussion of conservative solutions for the betterment of this state and country on the national stage, they instead opted for power politics. That dangerous game cost all of us something. It cost some of us all. We've lost good people. They've insulted us. They've called us racist. They've attempted to brand us as something we're not. They've attempted yet again to divide us and conquer us. But this time, it didn't work.
Right. That's right.
This time is the last time, and we're awaiting it. So, the most obvious question is, what now? What to do now to keep this movement on a path that will remake politics in the state of Mississippi and beyond? How do we take what we've learned, what we've done, and continue to find the opportunities, that was a Freudian slip, but that takes that too. And to continue to find the opportunities available to promote a message of prosperity that comes when people control their own communities and their own lives. That is what conservatism is at its core. Despite all of the rage, despite all of the anger, and we have a lot of it right now in this community, in this state, we do. You know it, you feel it, you see it on your social media, you see it everywhere. We have to take that anger, take that rage, and decide what's now. Immediately, we know what's now. We're going to count. And Lord willing, we may have another election.
All right.
I'm ready. Are you ready? Somebody needs to.
More than one somebody.
So, but what if that doesn't happen? Is it the end of the world? Is this over? Chris has just told you for himself. This is not about one man. This is not about one election. This is about taking back our communities. That's why I'm happy to announce today a project that was first conceptualized about 2.5 years ago. Chris and I actually discussed this before he jumped into the Senate race. It was put on the back burner then, of course. But many of us feel now it's a good time to launch it again. It's called Generation Mississippi. We started this, and right now it's a Facebook page, social media is out there. Look it up. Get ready for some announcements soon with respect to this. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the conservative dialogue back to one of solutions. Because when you talk solutions, then you don't allow the hatred to come in and to rule the day. We're going to take it one Mississippi city, one Mississippi county, or precinct by precinct, street by street, person by person, and take the message to the people. That's what Generation Mississippi can do. That's what we need to be about. We will do what we have already shown we are able to do with this election, just in the past month. We'll win the hearts and the minds of people who have been displaced by the power of politics, people who are ready for real, measurable results, and people who are ready for real reform, something that means something. You know, we have rallies, we come together, and we like to talk, we like to yell about what's not right. And look, I'm with you. But there's got to be something there in the end that we fight for.
Amen.
Conservatism means something. It's not about what we're against, it's about what we're for.
Right.
And this happens with